What's up, YouTube? This is the 82 and 0 podcast. Continuing on our 75th anniversary team, we're going to look at Kevin Durant. Now, Durant was born September 29th, 1988, and he grew up in the D.C. area. He was raised by a single mother named Wanda. When Durant was an infant, his father deserted the family. Wanda and Wayne divorced, that was his father's name, and Durant's grandmother, Barbara, helped raise him. By age 13, his father re-entered his life and traveled the country with him to basketball tournaments. Durant has a sister, Brianna, and two brothers, Tony and Ravion. Durant and his siblings grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, the eastern outskirts of Washington, D.C. He was unusually tall for his age. When he reached 6 feet tall at the age of 10. Growing up, Durant wanted to play for his favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. He grew up watching Vince Carter, and he played in Athletic Union, the AAU, basketball for several teams in Maryland. And he developed a strong bond with one of his coaches. His coach's name was Charles Craig, and unfortunately, his coach was murdered at the age of 35. This is why Durant wears the jersey number 35 still to this day. And after 2 years of high school basketball at National Christian Academy and 1 year at Oak Hill Academy, Durant transferred to Monroe's Christian School before his senior year, where he grew another 5 inches, where he would then be 6'7". And there's a lot of speculation about how tall Durant actually is, because he's listed at 6'9", but you can tell he's a lot taller than that. But anyways, prior to the start of his senior season, he committed to the University of Texas in Austin. He had visited the University of Connecticut and the University of North Carolina, and he even considered Duke University. And at the end of the year, he was named Washington Post All-Basketball Player of the Year, and he was the 2006 McDonald's All-American. And he was widely regarded as the second-best high school prospect in 2006 behind Greg Oden. Now, going into his college career for the 2006-2007 season, this is where he would shoot up to 6'9", which is what he's listed at right now. But like I said, he might be a lot taller than that. And anyways, he averaged 25.8 points per game, 11.1 rebounds per game, and 1.3 assists per game for the Texas Longhorns. And they finished with a 25-10 record, even 12-4 record in the conference. And they were the 4th seed in the NCAA tournament. And they won their first-round matchup against New Mexico State, but they were upset in the second round by USC despite a 30-point and 9-rebound performance from Durant. For his outstanding play, however, Durant was recognized as the unanimous National Player of the Year, winning the John R. Wooden Award, the Naismith College Player of the Year Award, and all 8 other widely recognized honors and awards. And Durant would declare for the draft after just 1 year, and he would keep his number 35 jersey. So he went to the Seattle Supersonics, and a crazy enough fact is his rookie year was the last year that the Seattle Supersonics existed, because they would relocate to Oklahoma City and become the Thunder. And he was drafted number 2 after Greg Oden, which we all know today was a mistake, because Greg Oden would have those knee injuries and be retired by the age of 24 or 25, I think. So he goes to Seattle, which I'm just going to call Oklahoma City at this point. He puts up 20.3 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 1.0 steals. And he's the 2008 Rookie of the Year. Now, this OKC team was really young during the late 2000s, early 2010s. So they would get Russell Westbrook and James Harden. And by the 2009-2010 season, when Durant got his first scoring title at the age of 21, putting up 30.1 points per game. This is when OKC started to become a serious playoff contender. They put up a good fight with the Lakers, taking them to 6 games that year. However, in the 2010-11 season, they went 55-27, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals against the Dallas Mavericks. So, like I said, Durant was 22, Westbrook was 22, Serge Ibaka was 21, and James Harden was 21. And the following year, they would go on a pretty incredible run in the 2011-2012 lockout season. They would go 47-19. They would upset the San Antonio Spurs and the Lakers. So they go to the finals and they win game 1 against the Miami Heat. And this is the Miami Heat team with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. And unfortunately, the Heat win the next 4 games, and LeBron wins his first championship at Durant's expense. But the consensus at this time was, oh, well, OKC is going to bounce back. It's not that big of a deal. They're young, and the next year, unfortunately, in that offseason, they traded away James Harden, who'd be a future MVP, because they didn't want to pay him. It's ridiculous. So they just kept the core of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Serge Ibaka. And they had good role players like Kendrick Perkins, Derek Fisher, Reggie Jackson, Kevin Martin. But Durant would put up 28 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, 4.6 assists. And Russell Westbrook would put up 23 points per game. Now, they would lose in the the semifinals, against the Memphis Grizzlies, which was an upset. But it should be noted, however, that Russell Westbrook didn't play in that series. So had he played, they might have won and went back to the finals. But regardless, the 2013-14 season, they go 59-23. And they go to the Western Conference Finals, and the Spurs beat them in 6 games. And this 2013-2014 season was Durant's MVP year. And today, it's his only MVP award. He put up 32 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists, 1.3 steals, and an elite 50% from the field, 39% from 3, and 87% from the field. And it should be noted that Russell Westbrook missed he only played 46 games that year. So Durant led them to 59 wins despite Russ only playing 46 games. And I encourage anyone to look up Kevin Durant's MVP speech. It's pretty incredible. It will get you into tears. He pretty much, to paraphrase it, he tells everyone in the audience when he gets the award that he doesn't deserve it. The real MVP is his mom, his single mother mom who raised him. And he talks about his humble beginnings and how he went from living in a 1-bedroom apartment with his brothers and sister to being a multimillionaire, and he was thanking God for everything that he accomplished. It's a wonderful. Like I said, they don't go to the finals that year, and it's unfortunate because 2014-2015, Kevin Durant would play only 27 games that year. Russ would play 67. And they'd win 45 games, which you'd think would get them like a 7 or 8 seed, but the Western Conference was really deep that year, and they missed the playoffs, even though they won 45 and 37. So going into the 15-16 season, this Oklahoma City Thunder team would go 55-27. And that's a great record, but this is the same year that the Spurs went 67-15, going undefeated on their home court. And this is the year the Golden State Warriors would win 73 games. So nobody was really focusing on the Thunder during this time. Kevin Durant would put up 28 points per game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. And this is when you started to see Russell Westbrook become, I don't want to say because he didn't average a triple-double yet, but you started to see glimpses of how good of a rebounding guard he is. So he put up 23 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 10.4 assists, and 2 steals. Now, this is probably one of the greatest rebounding teams of all time. You had Durant, Enes Kanter, who put up 8.1 rebounds. Like I said, Russell as a guard putting up 7.8. Had Serge Ibaka and Steve Adams, who were good rebounders, and Nick Collison. I'll get into why that's relevant in a minute. But in the San Antonio series, which was the Western Conference semifinals, this Spurs team should have won it. They had LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. Realistically, they should have won that series. But it was their rebounding that cost them. They only averaged 37 rebounds per game, and that Oklahoma City team put up 45. So I remember at the time, people were like, oh snap, this Thunder team upset the Spurs. And they go to the conference finals, and they start beating the shit out of the Warriors. And they go up 3-1. And the reason why is the same reason with the Spurs. The rebounding, 48 rebounds per game. This is a big reason why they were able to hold Golden State to such low. This is why they were able to beat Golden State so many times. And so they're up 3-1, and then everything goes wrong. So going into that game 6, the Warriors win 120-111. And game 6, I'm sorry, I meant game 5. Game 6, the Warriors would win 108-101. And then game 7, they would win 96-88. So they just couldn't get it done. And this is funny because the Warriors team that just came back from being down 3-1 would blow a 3-1 lead in the finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's never been done before. It's just crazy. So that offseason, Durant was a free agent. And most people, I specifically remember this during this time, were saying Durant is going to re-sign with the Thunder. He's loyal. He's going to come back. He's going to win it all with his team. He's going to do it the right way. And if you look at some of the earlier Kevin Durant tweets from like around 2011, I want to say, 2010, you saw him during this time criticizing LeBron James for going to a super team. So the consensus at the time was Durant, he's going to do it the right way. And unfortunately, well, I mean, it's not unfortunate for Warrior fans, but he goes to the Warriors, who won 73 games, and we all knew they were going to win. So they go 67-15 the next year, and Kevin Durant would win his first championship against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he won Finals MVP. And he had one of the greatest Finals performances in recent memory. He put up 35 points per game and 8 rebounds and 5 assists on 50, 40, 90 shooting. So Durant became one of the most hated players in the NBA. He became a villain. He went from a good boy, like one of the most popular players, somebody that everyone respected, somebody that people thought was going to win the old-fashioned way. And yeah, I don't really blame him. I think players have the right to sign where they want. Think about it. You ever work a job you hate? How would you feel if you quit that job you hate and everyone tells you, oh, you're a snake, you're this, you're that? So I get where Durant's coming from, but I wasn't happy during that time either. Because I like when the season starts and you don't know who's gonna win. You're like, oh, any team could win, but we all knew that the Warriors were gonna win. So, 2018 season, they would go 58-24, and they would go to the finals again. But what was more interesting was the Western Conference Finals because they were up against the best Houston Rockets team in history as far as record goes. And a lot of people thought the Rockets could win it. They went 65-17. They had a good defensive team despite having James Harden. And they blow it in the 7th game. Even back on their home court, Houston blows it. They miss a bunch of shots. They go 7 for 44 from 3-point land. Just absolutely ridiculous. You'd think that missing that many shots, once you get to like 20-something, they'd try a new strategy, but they gave it to Golden State. So, Golden State wins. That was their only tough playoff matchup. And I do want to mention that the 2017 season, they swept the Portland Trailblazers, they swept the Utah Jazz, and they swept the Spurs, and they lost the Cavs one game. So they went 16-1. Now, the 2018 Warriors, they would go 16-5. So these were pretty dominant teams. They had Kevin Durant, obviously, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. Now, the 2018-19 season, they were supposed to three-peat, and they even signed DeMarcus Cousins. So now they had a big five, and DeMarcus Cousins only played 30 games, I know, but he was still very efficient. There's kind of been this like revisionist history about him on this team. He had a 21.4 PER, and he put up 16 points and 8 rebounds. Anyways, they go to the finals against the Toronto Raptors, and Durant didn't even play the playoffs up until this point, into the finals, because he was dealing with injury. And he would come back one game in the finals. He thought he was ready to come back. And it was in Game 5, actually. He comes back and he plays 11 minutes, and then he broke his foot. He tore his Achilles. So then Klay Thompson goes out in that Game 6, so the Raptors win it all. And they didn't get their three-peat. So in that offseason, because Durant wanted to leave, so what they did was a sign-and trade. They traded him to the Brooklyn Nets for D'Angelo Russell, Shabazz Napier, and then he signed an extension with them. And that's where we're at today. He would miss the entirety of the 1920 season. The 2021 season, he would lead his Nets, and I'm sure everybody knows about the shortened season that year. They go 48-24, and they go to the semifinals against the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm sure a lot of people remember because this is in recent memory, but Durant, at the end of this game, in the end of regulation, he hits what he thought was a three-pointer. And had he hit that shot, they would have beat the Milwaukee Bucks. But his foot is so big. Look up sometime how big Kevin Durant's feet are. They're like rabbit feet. Anyways, when he landed, his foot was past the three-point line. Like his toes were going past it. So it was a 2, and it tied the game. It didn't put him ahead. So they ended up winning in overtime. So I know it sucks. I'm sure every Net fan in the world and every Kevin Durant fan in the world is mad. And this is where we're at today, the 21-22 season. He's on the Brooklyn Nets, and he was having a really good season to start out. He's averaging 29 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 52% shooting and 37% from 3. He's only played 36 games so far, and we don't know what Durant's going to do when he comes back. I think he'll come back around the playoff time, and we could see him. I honestly could see this Nets team winning. I know they got rid of Harden, but they're still a great team. They got Irving, they got LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills, Joe Harris, Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin. All they need is Kevin Durant to play his best basketball, and I think they could get it done. But we'll see, because a big reason why Durant wanted out of OKC is because of all the criticism he got for people saying he can't win a championship tough. He's got to get an easy championship. So I think that's why he went to the Nets. But the Nets built like this ridiculously overstacked team, so that's not really helping the narrative. But regardless, I think he just wants to be a number one option, and I think he wants to get another championship. Where we're at right now, he's a 12-time All-Star, 4-time scoring champion, 2-time champion, the 2008 Rookie of the Year, 9-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Star Game MVP, the 2014 MVP. And I have him like number 12, I'd say, in my top 75 players of all time. He has a career average of 27 points per game and 7 rebounds. And he's a great shooter. He has a career 49% field goal shooting, 38% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line. And I think he's the second best player of the 2010s. LeBron is number 1, and then KD. But let me know what you guys think about KD.